The top stories tonight in Y News. The Philippine government expects that China's Sinovac vaccines will be approved for emergency use in the country by next month, but the Chinese company has yet to submit its application to the Food and Drug Administration.
The health department advises hospitals to prepare for a possible surge of COVID-19 cases in the country.
An annual financial report reveals that Congress, the Department of National Defense, and the Office of the President as top spenders of confidential and intelligence funds in 2019. A legal counsel on the death of flight attendant Christine Dacera revealed that two of his respondents were forced by police officers to admit being on drugs during their year-end party.
Almost a week after the Capitol riot, 3 House Democrats tested positive for COVID-19.
And a research has found that orange capsicums can help combat blindness, but supplies are hard to find. Good evening, Philippines and the world. Today is Wednesday, January 13, 2021. I am Harleen Delgado.
Join us in the next hour as we deliver today's top stories around the country and in other parts of the world. I'm Angelo Castro III.
We are also seen in 1,935 satellite monitoring centers nationwide and via live streaming worldwide through the UNTV News and Rescue social media accounts and our website, untvweb.com. I am William P.
First in the news. Vaccine czar Carlito Galvez Jr. is expecting that China's Sinovac biotech vaccines will be approved for use in the country by next month. Meanwhile, Sinovac has been found to be 50.4% effective in Brazilian clinical trials, according to the latest results released by researchers. Aiko Miguel reports why.
The government has secured 25 million doses of vaccines developed by China's Sinovac Biotech. The Chinese company has not yet submitted its application for emergency use authorization to the Food and Drug Administration. This step is required for the vaccines to be approved for legal distribution in the country. It normally takes the FDA 21 days to review an application. But according to Vaccine Czar Secretary Carlito Galvez Jr., the government expects that Sinovac will get its EUA next month as they are to submit an application before January ends.
Ang kanilang phase 3 clinical trial, kino-consolidate lang po nila yung sa Brazil at saka sa Turkey. At sinabihan na po kami ng embassy na once na available na po yun, ay yun po ay bibigay sa FDA. Nakita po namin ang EUA ma-approve po before February 20. At yun po ang arrangement po namin. Maganda po ang pagpaplano namin dahil kasi alam na po namin kung ilan ang darating kada buwan.
50,000 Coronavac doses is expected to arrive in the country by February, 950,000 by March, then the remaining millions of doses will be delivered in the succeeding months. Meanwhile, Sinovac has been found out to be 50.4% effective in Brazilian clinical trials, according to the latest results released by researchers. It shows the vaccine is significantly less effective than previous data suggested, barely over the 50% needed for regulatory approval. But according to Secretary Galvez, more advanced countries are using Sinovac and surely have been evaluated by their experts.
Kung ito po ay gagamitin ng mga advanced countries na katulad ng Singapore, ay palagay po natin na nakita natin na ito ay talagang effective at efficient.
The official also belies reports that Sinovac is more expensive than other COVID-19 vaccines brands. To gain public trust on the government's immunization program, Secretary Galvez is willing to get a job of whichever vaccine supply will be delivered first in the country.
Yung vaccine na gagamitin natin, milyon-milyon na ang nabakunahan nun. Kaya assured kami na safe yun. Kaya kahit anong vaccine ang mauna, volunteer ako kahit na anong mauna. Mapapabakuna po ako.
Health Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergere also said they are aware of the efficacy reports of vaccines released in other countries like that of Sinovac.
And as we have said, we have a portfolio of vaccines na tinitignan. Hindi lang naman po isang bakuna yan. we will only procure safe and efficacious vaccine.
Experts will thoroughly examine the data from Sinovac once submitted to the Vaccine Experts Panel.
Ganito po yun, no? Yan ay galing sa press release. Ang Vaccine Expert Panel ay titignan po yung technical data nila. But we need to look at the technical data bago namin talagang masasabi na ito nga. Now, iba-iba talaga ang efficacy nila and kailangan makita natin isa-isa yung mga datos nila bago natin bibigyan ng conclusion or ano talaga sila.
Meanwhile, a tripartite agreement will be signed tomorrow between the national government, local government units, and some private companies with AstraZeneca for the procurement of 20 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Meanwhile, the Senate Committee of the Whole will continue its hearing on the government's COVID-19 vaccination plan on Friday. According to Senate President Vicente Soto III, there are a lot of burning issues that should be discussed, including the concerns on the availability and arrival of COVID-19 vaccines. However, the senator believes the remark of presidential spokesperson Harry Roque that the Filipinos should not be choosy on what brand of COVID-19 vaccine to receive should not be an issue.
I don't think it should be an issue. In practical terms, ito available. Ito ibibigay na natin sa inyo ngayon. Ito na yung available. Ayaw mo, o diba? Sino may gusto? Let's not make a big deal out of it because it's up to the person talaga.
Aside from the IATF officials who attended in the first hearing, also invited on Friday are Foreign Affairs Secretary Teddy Boy Locsin, representatives from the medical field, including the Philippine Medical Association, Philippine Nurses Association, and the Cold Chain Association of the Philippines, as well as pharmaceutical companies Zuellig Pharma Philippines, Pfizer, and Unilab Incorporated. The Senate President added that they will tackle the issue on allowing local government units and the private sector to purchase their own preferred COVID-19 vaccines directly from vaccine manufacturers. The Union of Local Authorities of the Philippines, the League, cities and municipalities, and representatives from the private sector will be invited to discuss the matter.
We will pursue the possibility of allowing the private sector or LGUs or private individuals from procuring. Kasi, yun nga, sabi nga nila, yung iba hindi believe do sa ganito, yung iba believe sa galing sa Russia or UK or wherever, di ba? So we will insist on Friday to find a solution to that particular predicament where we are in, where a tripartite agreement is necessary.
Under the current setup, the LGUs and private companies can participate in the procurement of vaccines, but only through a tripartite agreement with the national government and pharmaceutical firms. During Monday's hearing, testing czar Vince Dizon explained that the vaccine manufacturers cannot sell their COVID-19 vaccines to private firms for commercial use with an emergency use authorization. Presidential Advisor for Entrepreneurship Joey Concepcion meanwhile said that in the case of AstraZeneca, it is the vaccine manufacturer that prefers to transact with the national government and not with the private sector. However, this may change in the coming years once there is a sufficient supply of COVID-19 vaccine globally.
Most of the countries, their own governments are buying the vaccines directly from the vaccine manufacturers, no? Because of the tightness of supply. Itong zero profit program nila, yung AstraZeneca, would not have been possible for the private sector to buy directly if not for the government's approval and the agreement towards a tripartite agreement. They are respecting the what do you call this, no privilege access, no? Itong privilege access is an agreement with them and Oxford University na talagang yung poorest of the poor, yung talagang highly vulnerable sa society, ang dapat mo unang tumanggap dito sa mga vaccines.
Meanwhile, new COVID-19 cases totaling to 1,453 have been detected nationwide. Since January 2020, the number of confirmed cases in the country stood at 492,700, of which 24,478 or 5% are still active or still being treated. Quezon City reported the highest increase with 95 new infected residents, followed by Cavite with 66 and the city of Manila with 54, Davao City with 50 and Cebu City with 44. The death count increased to 9,699 with 146 new fatalities recorded. Meanwhile, 397 more patients were able to beat the virus, raising the total number of recoveries to 458,523. The Department of Health advised hospitals to prepare for a possible surge of COVID-19 cases in the country. Aiko Miguel reports why. Yes, Aiko, good evening.
Yes, Will, good evening. It is also noticeable that COVID-19 cases spike since the past few days. According to Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergere, one of the reasons of the spike is the resumption of COVID-19 laboratories operations after the holiday break. They are also strictly monitoring data to see whether this is already the effect of the post-holiday surge. This is why, according to the DOH, they have advised hospitals to prepare for possible COVID-19 surge in the country. Here is Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergere, the spokesperson of the Department of Health.
Kailangan lang po namin magkaroon ng tulong-tulong ang ating mga ospital, pati ang ating mga local governments, just to prepare kung sakaling tataas nga po ang kaso in the coming weeks dito po sa Enero.
William, to see the effect whether there was a transmission during the traslasyon. This after there were crowding of devotees last weekend. The DOH has to wait for 2 weeks to see if there was COVID-19 transmission in this said event. Meanwhile, William, following strengthened biosurveillance and border control efforts, just now the Department of Health and the Philippine Genome Center officially confirms the detection of the B117 SARS-CoV-2 variant or the UK variant here in the Philippines after samples from a Filipino who arrived from the United Arab Emirates or UAE on January 7 yielded positive genome sequencing results. And that is the latest live. Back to you, Will.
Thank you, Aiko Miguel, reporting live.
In other news, the annual financial report of the Commission on Audit has revealed that Congress, the Department of National Defense, and the Office of the President were the top spenders of confidential and intelligence funds in 2019. Rosalie Cos explains why live. Yes, Rosalie, go ahead.
On confidential, intelligence, and extraordinary or CIF funds increased by more than 2 billion pesos in 2019 compared to 2018. Based on the annual financial report of the Commission on Audit or COA, the CIF spending went up to 13.46 billion pesos compared to 11.438 billion pesos in 2018. The Congress is the biggest spender of confidential, intelligence, and extraordinary funds with 3.98 billion pesos, followed by the National Defense with 3.087 billion pesos spending and the Office of the President with 2.41 billion pesos. Other government agencies which spent confidential and intelligence funds in 2019 include the Interior and Local Government, other executive offices, Information and Communication Technology, Justice, Judiciary, Finance, the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, and other departments and offices. On the other hand, the Office of the Vice President Leni Robredo has the lowest CIF spending at 547,000 pesos only. Malacanang has yet to issue a statement on this. Last year, President Duterte has vetoed a provision in the 2021 national budget requiring the disclosure to Congress how intelligence funds would be spent. Diego, the president said intelligence funds cover projects and programs related to national security, and matters related to this are deemed confidential or classified information. Back to you, Diego.
Thank you, Rosalie Cos, reporting live from Quezon City. Meanwhile, the Senate did not spend for intelligence funds, according to Senate President Vicente Soto III. This was the senator's response after the 2019 annual report of the Commission on Audit showed that Congress topped the list of government agencies that spent the highest amount of confidential funds, amounting to over 3 billion pesos. In a media forum, Senator Soto said the upper chamber did not spend a single centavo for the Intel funds. The House has yet to comment on the matter.
The Senate did not spend a single centavo on intelligence funds. Kaya wala akong matandaan na hindi na, wala kami ginamit na gano'n.
And for those watching us on YouTube, please click the subscribe button you see on the right side of your screen and ring the bell for notification. You may also follow us on Facebook.
The Makati City Prosecutor's Office started its preliminary investigation into the complaint lodged against 11 individuals over the death of flight attendant Christine Dacera. A lawyer of the respondents say that 2 of their clients were forced by the police to admit that they were on drug during the party. Dante Amento will give us the details live. Yes, Dante, good evening.
Yes, William, complainant and Christine Dacera's mother, Sharon Dacera, attended a preliminary investigation on the rape with homicide case in Makati City Prosecutor's Office this morning, and 7 of the 11 respondents with their legal counsel. The Makati Police submitted supplemental complaints but failed to present the evidences such as the DNA analysis report and toxicology or chemical report being asked by the prosecution pending results. Respondents Romel Galido, Jan Pascual de la Serna III, Gregorio Angelo Rafael de Guzman, Valentine Rosales, and Clark Rapinan also filed their joint counter affidavit. Here is attorney Mike Santiago, one of the legal counsel of the respondents.
The PNP has submitted a supplemental complaint which will now be reviewed by the Prosecutor's Office of Makati. The DNA results and the other laboratory examination results are not yet available at this time, so they were given time. The PNP were given time to submit this.
Meanwhile, a lawyer of the 5 respondents said that 2 of their clients were pressured by the Makati Police to give statement that there were drugs during their party.
Napilitan lang kasi may pressure sila during that time. Dalawa yung sa amin, si JP de la Serna and Romel Galido. According to them, the PNP Police. Makati.
William, the respondents have retracted their first sworn statement through their counter affidavit. Through the counter affidavit they submitted, thus their legal counsel will be submitting drug test results that or to prove that their clients did not use drugs. And next preliminary or the next hearing on the case is scheduled on January 27 at 9 o'clock in the morning. And that's the latest live. Back to you, William.
Yes, thank you, Dante Amento, reporting live on the Christine Dacera case. Meanwhile, a lawyer believes that there is a need to amend the country's anti-rape law following the death of Christine Dacera. Leah Ilagan will tell us why.
The family of Christine Dacera still believes that the flight attendant was drugged before she was sexually molested. This is why the family is now calling on the legislators to amend the anti-rape law in the country. Attorney Brick Reyes explains, the family wants to include the use of sexual drugs as a ground for rape.
I think there is a need for us to study the possible of amending the law so that we will add use of these sexual inducing drugs as a ground for establishing probable cause. Because I think maraming na biktima ng itong droga nga hindi lang nagreklamo.
Attorney Reyes also says that the family believes that there is a cover-up by the suspect in the death of the flight attendant, noting that they are waiting for the results of the second autopsy to determine if Dacera was drugged.
they believe that there is a cover-up. At saka hinihintay namin yung second autopsy nga hiningi namin dahil sa dinidispute ng pamilya ang resulta ng unang autopsy.
Attorney Reyes adds, they are positive that the truth will come out soon, and with the help of NBI forensic experts, they will be able to pinpoint the perpetrators of the crime. Leia Ilagan, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
The 18-kilometer Skyway Stage 3 from South Luzon Expressway in Alabang to North Luzon Expressway will be closed to motorists starting today from 10 p.m. through the whole day of January 14. Joan Nano tells us why.
After more than 6 years of construction, Skyway Stage 3 project is set to open its full operations on Friday, January 15. Skyway Stage 3 project is an 18-kilometer elevated expressway from Buendia, Makati up to Balintawak, Quezon City, which is also a Skyway extension project. President Rodrigo Duterte is scheduled to grace the opening ceremony as this is one of the major infrastructure projects of his administration under the Build, Build, Build program. Earlier, Public Works and Highways Secretary Mark Villar conducted his final inspection in the Skyway Stage 3 to ensure that everything is in place. Although the road project is expected to shift to its full operations, only 7 ramps will be open to motorists, including entry and exit ramps in Buendia, Quezon Avenue, and Balintawak. However, in Plaza de Lao, only the southbound ramp will be open to motorists for the meantime, as there are still 9 ramps that are under construction and yet to be delivered to DPWH. On the other hand, the expressway's 6 lanes will be open to motorists starting on Friday. From its partial operations last December 29, DPWH estimates that around 60,000 to 70,000 motorists every day are using the Skyway Stage 3 instead of taking EDSA.
Qualitatively, we can see na maraming natutuwa dahil sa pag rush hour minsan sa EDSA, makikita natin di gaano ka grabe ang traffic, and the numbers would show this dahil ito naman talaga expectation namin, ito yung target namin na mabawasan ng EDSA ng at least 100,000 cars para bumalik siya sa original capacity.
Metro Manila Skyway Stage 3 will remain free for public use for a month or until January 29. However, since the contractor is yet to complete the entire construction, Secretary Villar says that free toll might be extended beyond its deadline. Secretary Villar adds that other portions of the Skyway will be finished in the coming months as committed by the contractor. Joan Nano, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Metro Rail Transit Line 3 or MRT 3 will soft launch its own contact tracing application called MRT3 Trace on January 18. MRT3 Director for Operations Michael Kapati said in a statement, the digitized process of contact tracing is seen to help prevent further transmission of COVID-19. To register, passengers may log on at trace.dotrmrt3.gov.ph and fill out the basic information such as full name, birth date, address, and contact number. After registration, the app user should activate their smartphone location services. When at the MRT3, passengers need to scan the unique quick response or QR code located at the designated areas in the station.
The Department of Environment and Natural Resources says illegal drainage pipes contribute to high fecal coliform level in Manila Bay. Asher Cadapan Jr. explains why.
Despite the establishment of sewerage treatment plant for the major drainages along Rojas Boulevard, the Manila Bay still shows high fecal coliform level. The Department of Environment and Natural Resources wonders until they discovered 4 illegal pipes discharging untreated wastewater into the bay. The pipes were hidden in boulders along the seashore. DENR Undersecretary Jonas Leones explains that these violations impede the progress of the Manila Bay rehabilitation. The agency already sealed the illegal pipes and is currently tracing its source through the Laguna Lake Development Authority or LLDA.
Fecal coliform, tinitingnan natin. So, ibig sabihin, galing sa mga establishments siya galing sa mga residential areas, industries, halo-halo na yun. Kasi hindi nga bumababa. So, sa ngayon, yun ang ginagawa namin. I-trace namin, but at the same time, we need to seal these legal pipes.
Yusek Leones also confirmed that the said pipes were not in the listing of the Manila City government and the Department of Public Works and Highways. He said the pipes may have been existing even before the reclamation project in the area. But should LLDA finds negligence in any establishments near Manila Bay, the authorities will prohibit the violators to discharge their wastewater and impose corresponding fines against them.
Ang requirement kasi natin yan, dalawa eh. Dapat yung establishment, bago sila mag-discharge, they need to secure discharge permit from DNR or from LLDA. Second, when they discharge their wastewater, dapat treated na yan and then complying with our standard.
Asher Kadapan Jr., UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
And for those watching us on YouTube, please click the subscribe button you see on the right side of your screen and ring the bell for notification. You may also follow us on Facebook.
Several lawmakers and economists agreed in a House hearing that is high time for a legislative measure to lift the restrictive economic provisions of the Constitution. But for others, the country is just not ready for another cha-cha in the middle of the pandemic. Ray Pelayo explains why.
Former National Economic and Development Authority Chief Ernesto Pernia expressed his agreement in changing the economic provisions of the Constitution. He believes at this stage, the country's economy is slowly recovering from months of crisis caused by the coronavirus disease pandemic. Pernia said amending the Constitution will facilitate further and faster economic growth. He noted that one way to ensure the economic progress is to welcome foreign investments into the Philippines, similar to what Vietnam did, where their economy progressed despite the pandemic in 2020. The former economic head said the Philippines has the strictest measures among countries in the world in terms of allowing foreign investments.
In fact, there are already some green shoots of signs that the economy is in the early stages of recovery. But we need to really push that with policies, including allowing foreign direct investments into the country, so that this recovery will accelerate.
Meanwhile, Deputy Speaker Wes Gatchalian believes this is the right time to reopen the economy considering the number of Filipinos who lost their jobs, including overseas Filipino workers and the companies who terminated their businesses. According to Albay Representative Joey Salceda, the country's economy will gain an additional $5 to $7 billion or about 240 billion to 336 billion every year once it opens its doors to foreign investments. Interior Undersecretary Jonathan Malaya during the hearing in Congress endorsed the more than 500,000 signatures they collected from 72 provinces across the country supporting the amendment in the economic provisions of the Constitution. Malaya believes the number will reach millions if not of the pandemic. Research group Ibon Foundation, meanwhile, said there is no reason to change the Constitution if the issue is only about economic recovery because the government may simply provide financial assistance such as a stimulus package.
The economy's development lies in using the protections in the Constitution to gain from foreign investment, not in taking away the protections and giving self-interested foreign investment free rein over the domestic economy.
The resolution filed by House Speaker Alan Velasco proposes the insertion of words unless otherwise provided by law in the provisions that limits the entry and participation of foreign investors in the country's economy. Ray Pelayo, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
And for the news abroad, here's Kath Dumaraos reporting live from Bangkok, Thailand.
Good evening, William. Almost 1 week after insurrectionists stormed the U.S. Capitol, 3 House Democrats have tested positive for the coronavirus disease. Kat Carriedo reports.
Illinois Representative Brad Schneider, Representative Pramila Jayapal for Washington, and Representative Bonnie Watson Coleman of New Jersey have announced that they have tested positive for the coronavirus disease within a span of about 24 hours. The 3 House Democrats are all isolating themselves in order to not risk the health and safety of their loved ones. It is not certain where and when the lawmakers caught the virus, but all 3 of them were placed in a secure location when pro-Trump insurrectionists stormed the Capitol last week. The 3 Democrats directed their anger towards some Republicans who did not wear masks, not adhering to health guidelines. Video shared by Punchbowl News shows several lawmakers apparently refusing face masks offered to them. Medical experts fear more lawmakers may have contracted the disease. Following this, a legislation was introduced that would impose a $1,000 fine on any member of Congress who refused to wear a mask on Capitol grounds during the coronavirus pandemic. Representative Debbie Dingell, who introduced the bill, condemned the act of some officials who refused to follow the protocols on his Twitter page. Similar fines are also being considered in the House of Representatives and the House Office Building Commission. The U.S. has recorded the highest number of coronavirus infections and deaths in the world, with no sign of the epidemic abating, despite the limited rollout of vaccines. Kat Carriedo, UNTV News and Rescue, USA. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The U.S. state of New York expands COVID-19 vaccine distribution to include people aged 65 and over, despite short supply of doses. Marvy Delfin will give us the details live. Marvy?
Kath, in an announcement by New York State Governor Andrew Cuomo, the state has opened up its vaccine eligibility to everyone 65 and older, as well as younger people who are immunocompromised. This means that at least 7 million people in the state are now eligible for the shots, while New York only receives 300,000 doses a week from the federal government. Governor Cuomo was initially reluctant as the demand will outstrip supply, and hundreds of thousands of healthcare workers, especially doctors and nurses handling COVID-19 patients, have yet to be vaccinated as hospitals face a surge of infected cases. But Governor Cuomo made the move in accordance with the updated guidelines from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, or CDC. Though Cuomo notes that the new guidance could create more headaches in the vaccine rollout, as there is no sub-prioritization for people 90 years old with health complications, for example. Cuomo added that if the current rate of dose allocation continues, it will take about 6 months to vaccinate everyone 65 and older, as well as the other eligible groups. Cuomo blamed the federal government for the limited access of vaccines, which inhibits the state's ability to vaccinate people. Since the FDA's granting of emergency use authorization to Pfizer-BioNTech and Moderna, the federal government has been withholding more than half of all available vaccine doses to ensure there is enough for second booster shots needed to achieve maximum immunity. But the Department of Health and Human Services said that the federal government under Trump's administration would begin releasing all available vaccines rather than holding back second doses, and that Americans would still be able to get second doses on time. Cuomo urged President-elect Joe Biden to examine the policy and consider revising it once he takes office next week. As of today, the New York State has already administered 665,172 doses of the vaccines produced by Pfizer-BioNTech and Moderna. Kath?
All right, Marvy, thank you for that live report. Following the weekend's heavy snow that hardened into ice, central Spain records its lowest temperature in 20 years, turning roads and streets into major safety hazards and resulting to at least 7 deaths. Mavian Dog gives us the details live. Maeve?
Kat, central Spain experienced its coldest night yesterday when the municipality of Molina de Aragon, dubbed as the Spanish Siberia, including the town of Teruel, recorded overnight temperatures reaching a negative 25 degrees Celsius, the lowest ever recorded since 2001. The blizzard has killed at least 7 people, 2 of which were homeless people in Barcelona, and has led to more than 1,000 fracture cases across Madrid's regional hospitals, which are already struggling under pressure due to COVID-19. The cold snap came after Storm Filomena hit Madrid over the weekend, leaving behind an extraordinary amount of snow that turned into ice and turning roads into safety hazards. The extreme weather has also disrupted many commuter train services. And according to Spain's El País Daily, over 1,000 snow-clearing vehicles are now operating and have so far managed to keep 12,100 kilometers of roads snow and ice-free. Meanwhile, a power cut has reportedly left around 2,000 vulnerable children and their families without electricity at La Cañada Real Galiana in the Madrid region amidst the extreme weather. The Madrid government is now appealing for people and the elderly to stay at home unless absolutely necessary, after a flood of emergency calls and the growing number of accidents that could further strain hospitals' emergency rooms. Kath?
Thank you, Mavian Dog, reporting live from Australia. Carotenoids have long been known to aid ocular health and improve our eyesight. However, carrots are not the only orange vegetables to do this. An Australian university finds that orange capsicums are more superior. Early Briones will tell us why.
In Australia, age-related macular degeneration is the leading cause of 50% cases of blindness. 1 in 7 people aged over 50 and 1 in 3 people over 80 will suffer from macular degeneration. Thanks to the research of the University of Queensland, Australia, orange capsicums may soon take the title away from carrots in being the best vegetables to support eye health. Carrots and other green leafy vegetables contain the carotenoid beta-carotene, which is responsible for producing vitamin A, the antioxidant that removes degenerative effects of oxidation and blue light damage in our eyes. The university, however, has now found that orange capsicums are the richest source of another carotenoid called zeaxanthin, which is more potent in targeting macular degeneration and therefore more powerful in preventing blindness. 1 orange capsicum is said to contain levels of zeaxanthin equivalent to 30 supplemental tablets of the same nutrient in just 1 serving. However, as good as it sounds, orange capsicums are not easily found in Australia. The lack of product demand have resulted in scarce supplies, and Australian shoppers are instead more likely to find green, yellow, and red capsicums in their grocery aisles, all of which do not come close to the potency of their orange variant. The North Queensland grower Carl Walker claims that even though so many varieties of orange capsicums and chilies exist, their seeds are by far more expensive and a definite no-go option. Dr. Tim O'Hare, the project leader for the Queensland Alliance for Agriculture and Food Innovation, now aims to address the lack of zeaxanthin in our bodies and everyday diet through agricultural research. The goal of the research is said to allow farmers and growers to produce more orange capsicums economically and therefore raise supply, demand, and consumptions to ultimately allow more Australians to eat more orange capsicums and maintain better eye health. Early Briones, UNTV News and Rescue Australia. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
And those are the reasons behind the news in other parts of the globe. Back to you, William.
Thank you, Kath Dumaraos, live from Bangkok, Thailand.
The Quezon City government, in coordination with the Department of Health, is closely monitoring the case of a resident who tested positive for the COVID-19 United Kingdom variant, or B117. The patient was tested on January 7 upon arrival from Dubai and thereafter stayed at a hotel as part of protocol. The city epidemiology and surveillance unit has conducted contact tracing on the resident's close contacts upon his arrival in the country. The Department of Health, meanwhile, reiterates that the mode of transmission has not changed. This means that the minimum public health standards remain to be the effective measure against the spread of the disease. And those are the reasons behind the news, January 13, 2021. I am Harleen Delgado.
Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. I'm Angelo Castro III.
Because we need to know, we will always ask why. I am William Theo. We serve the people, we give glory to God.